just weird and generally off-putting. Honestly, same. And this is the thing, is that, well, actually, okay. I was about to say something and then I instantly realized that it wasn't true. Um, Hello. Today I have two new horror releases I want to talk about. As a small aside, I do want to acknowledge that I am aware that the nominees for the Splatterpunk Awards have been announced. So fear not, there will be an upcoming video about that. However, with the intention of this being about new releases, I didn't want too much time to pass before I got the video out to you guys. So the first book I want to talk about is called When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. Now, I am a pretty big fan of Nat Cassidy. Before I started this channel, I read his book Mary. I listened to the audio version, and I absolutely loved it. I loved it so much that I bought a physical copy to reread at some point so I could annotate it. I also read his last book, Nestlings, which I also liked quite a lot. So I've been keeping my eye out for this in particular, and I was not disappointed. Although I will be transparent, in my eyes, Mary still reigns supreme, but this is right up there with Nestlings. One of our main characters is a woman named Jess, who is a waitress at a diner called Poppy's. Her estranged father recently passed away. It's causing a lot of turmoil and buried emotions to kind of bubble to the surface. And so she's having a bit of a weird day. And then she ends up going to the bathroom at work to clean it up. She's cleaning the bathroom and she reaches behind the toilet and ends up puncturing her finger on a needle that somebody left there. Obviously, she is freaking the fuck out, as anyone would. She doesn't tell anybody what happens, but she does leave the diner with the intention of going to a clinic or something. But she's just kind of in this weird state of mind, and she's not completely thinking clearly. She ends up going home first. And when she goes home, many other events start to take place. Namely, that there is a small child that is crying in her backyard. Now, this small child is our other main character. He is a 5-year-old boy who doesn't seem to know his own name, but he allows her to call him Kiddo. She takes him in, she feeds him, she's just trying to kind of figure out what's going on and who this kid is, where he came from. Some time passes and suddenly there is this angry man in her backyard who is also naked, mind you. She can't help but suspect that perhaps it's connected given the already very strange day she is having. The man kind of freaks out, and I'm just, honestly, I'm just going to say it because this isn't even really the crux of the story. The man essentially turns into a werewolf type creature and goes berserk. However, Jess is able to get away with the little boy. Jess just met this little boy, and yet she has this deep-seated need to protect him. She doesn't know what the hell is going on. She doesn't even truly understand or know if the man really did transform or if there was a different creature that came out of nowhere. She's already having a very strange day, mind you. She continues to try to take him to safety, even though she doesn't know where safety is or what's going on. And at the heart of this story, you realize, and I won't spoil what this is, but that the little boy is also special. And it's not like, oh, he's also a werewolf. That's too easy, right? Not that. It's something else. He's special in his own way. And so you get into all of these things about the concept of loyalty. How much loyalty do you owe to this person you just met? But he's also a kid, but he's not your kid. And also, mind you, she did get pricked in the finger, and that's kind of taking a back seat. How much of a priority is that with all this other stuff? And also, you figure, in a sense, she has kidnapped a small child. So there's the possible legal ramifications, but also she's trying to protect him, and there's all these layers of confusion of not knowing what the right thing to do is. There's so much chaos going on. She is in no way mentally, emotionally, or intellectually equipped to have any idea how to properly handle the situation through no fault of her own. She didn't ask for any of this. She's clearly in over her head. But the little boy has no one else. It's the sort of thing where it's really easy to kind of put yourself in her shoes. You don't know what the best thing for him would be. Are you making things worse? And this little boy who starts to trust her, but is so scared all the time. And the powers that are going on with him, he is also in over his head. You see the kind of comparison between these two. This adult woman mourning her father, but also the resentment of the fact that he was not in her life. It's complex emotions. And then this little boy, in a sense, he's also mourning his father. The wolf is in pursuit, right? The book is called When the Wolf Comes Home. When you're a little kid, if you're fortunate enough to have a good dad in your life, that is supposed to be one of the safest places in the world. And so he's kind of mourning what his father should be to him, and what he's become now, which is just a source of fear. And those complex feelings of being afraid of him, but also missing him. That is a very big theme in this book. The fixation on things like fear forming your reality. Also just the father-child relationship is a very big theme. And that's something that Nat Cassidy included in his afterword, talking about his father, his kind of complex relationship with his father, and a clearly very intentional focus on that in this book. My initial thought when I was finishing it was that it had a kind of poetic ending. But then when you get the kind of extra, the little bit more, it's even more poetic in a sense, but it's so dark. It was very effective and it was very poignant. It kind of forces you to change your perspective on the rest of the book that you just read, and you're viewing it through a slightly different lens. This doesn't really have anything to do with anything, but if you're a millennial like me, maybe you are also familiar with my favorite childhood movie is The Never-Ending Story. And that is my go-to still to this day. That is my go-to comfort movie. Arguably hasn't aged well visually, but conceptually, there's a wolf in that movie and book. It's also a book called The Nothing. And the Nothing is represented by this big scary wolf. I'm not going to get into the whole plot of that, but I thought it was interesting because the description of the wolf in this book, which obviously is symbolic of bigger than, this isn't just like a standard werewolf story, right? Like it's representative of more than that. The visuals and the way that it's described made me think of The Nothing from The Never-Ending Story. So if you know that book or that movie, you get a sense here of like the kind of ominous vibes that we're talking about. There's definitely a lot here to kind of get into and explore, a lot of layers. So this has just continued to cement that I am a big Nat Cassidy fan. And our second book is called Senseless by Ronald Malfi. And this is an author that I have not read before, but I feel confident I will read again. I listened to the audio version of this. This story was narrated by 3 different people because it's told from 3 different character perspectives. The narrators are Joe Hempel, Ray Greenlee, and Jen Lee. Our catalyst for all the events that follow is that there is a body that is discovered, and it is all sorts of messed up. Somebody really did a number on this body, just completely mutilated it. As disturbing as this discovery is, the thing that makes it much worse is the fact that the appearance, the MO, all of that matches a previous body that was discovered. One of our perspectives is from Detective Bill Rennie, who is the one investigating the case. He is also the one who was involved with the initial case, the one that this is similar to. This is one of those books where you have the 3 different narratives and you're not really sure how they're all gonna intertwine until you get to the end. And then it all comes together. It's one of those. Detective Bill Rennie, clear connection to our catalyst. Less clear is the female character, Maureen Park. What we know about Maureen is that she is recently engaged to this big Hollywood producer named Greg Dawson. And thing is that they haven't known each other for that long. It's been less than a year and they're already engaged, but they seem to be genuinely into each other. It's not like a loveless marriage or whatever. And so we're introduced to her when they are having their engagement party, and Greg's adult son Landon comes to the party unexpectedly because he was supposed to be in Europe. But, there he is at their party. His presence becomes a topic of contention amongst them because he's just kind of weird. It's more intentional. He's the type of person who enjoys making other people uncomfortable because he thinks it's funny. That type of character. Okay, so that's kind of how we're introduced to Maureen, is her situation with her fiance and then his weird creepy son. And then the other character is a man named Toby Campen, who refers to himself as the human fly. What we know about Toby is that he appears to be, clearly mentally unwell. He goes to this club or whatever and he meets this woman and he truly believes that this woman is a vampire. And he finds that very intriguing. And he wants to get swept up in that world. He wants to get to know her more. I wouldn't say he's pursuing her romantically because he's just not quite that. He's just a little weird. He just really wants to be around her. I mean, I think he would like to be close to her, but he's not actively pursuing. You understand what I'm saying? He's just kind of weird and awkward, and he doesn't know how to pursue a woman, so he's just trying to exist near her. A very unusual relationship with his mother. His mother cares about him deeply, but seemingly, this is being told from his perspective, seemingly in a very overbearing way. I don't know. I'm sure I can figure it out, but I don't know at this time which narrator did Toby's part. I mean, obviously Jen Lee did Maureen, but between the 2 men, I'm not sure who did Bill Rennie and who did Toby. Whoever did Toby, if I can figure it out, I'll put it right here. My hand's off screen. I'll put it right here. The commitment of that voice actor. He did this thing that I was absolutely obsessed with because, again, this is being told from Toby's perspective, right? The fact that the way the voice, I can only assume he did this on purpose. It has to have been. When he did the mother's voice or any character that Toby was clearly annoyed by, he would give them this super whiny, Toby, no! Toby, where were you? That's how he would deliver her lines. Just almost unbearable, but it's not. It's fine to listen to. You don't feel the need to turn it off, although you may have clicked off the video already when I do it. He was so freaking committed that he just made these voices so like how Toby probably would have perceived them in his head, even if they didn't necessarily actually sound like that. I thought that was such a funny, nuanced touch to his performance of the other characters within Toby's narrative. The way you interpret the people that you're listening to is going to be shaped by how you feel about that person, right? So those are our three characters. The thing that I will add to Detective Bill Rennie is that he has a unusually close relationship with a man named Alan, the husband of the first victim. This follow-up murder leads him to believe that his wife's killer is still on the loose. So there's like this extra layer of conflict to that story. Also, Detective Bill Rennie has been dealing with the loss of his own wife. So he's got a lot going on with him. You come to understand how Maureen and Toby's story interconnect with the body that was found. I found it very satisfying when all the stories finally came together. There is a likability to all of these characters. Even Toby, I would argue, who again is not quite right. But he's a very interesting character because sometimes you as the reader are surprised by his intelligence or his awareness. His intellect is at such a level where he genuinely believes that this woman is a vampire and is just coming up with these stories in his head to explain away certain things or whatever. And so I thought that made Toby really fun to read because it wasn't always obvious how he was going to react to things. There is actually quite a lot of mental illness in this book that is at times parading around as if it is normal, parading around with a mask on. Each of these characters have such interesting, unique relationships with people within their narrative. Toby's relationship with his mother, Maureen's relationship with with Greg, but also with Landon. There is a lot going on with Landon that I'm not going to get into here, but there's like a lot going on there. Detective Rennie with Alan. You have like these very specific relationships that are the fueling the conflict. I really enjoyed the way that he shaped those relationships and how those relationships affect these characters when they're doing other things. When Toby's out in the world doing things, you see how his relationship with his mother affects his day-to-day life. And same with the other characters. You see the effects of those relationships on that person's character. Very effectively written in that regard on the impact of the relationships, the impact of mental illness, the impact of grief. Out of these three, I would say that Maureen's ending was the least satisfying for me. Not that the idea or the concept behind it was bad in any way. I guess it just sort of felt a little bit less to the overall story than the other ones. But overall, I really enjoyed listening to this story. I thought it was a very pretty cover, and that's what drew me to it, even though I had never read this author before. But based off of this, I would be very surprised if I don't end up reading him again. Both of those books were just released in April. I sincerely enjoyed both of them quite a lot. I thought both of these books were really well balanced between being character-driven and plot-driven. Very interesting, complex characters, but there is a very strong plot to both of these books as well. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And maybe I'll see you the next time around. Bye. I don't know if it's considered a twist or just unexpected information. What's the difference? I don't know. Whatever. But I'm sure it'll be... I really liked it. Like somebody... And our second